was the summer of 2014, and for my son's bar mitzvah present, just like many Jewish parents, we wanted him to bond with the Holy Land. Oh, it worked perhaps too well. My husband had stayed back at the hotel, and our friends, my son and I, had just stopped in a pharmacy.
Run to the bomb shelter, sweetie, please hurry. I didn't hear the sirens at first, but the Israelis did. They're used to hearing these things. We ran to the back of the storeroom. It was a 12-foot by 24-foot windowless bomb shelter. My heart's pounding. Boom! Boom! I hear and feel the percussion of the exploding bombs. I'm trying not to get sick. I look at my 13-year-old son and I think I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him.
That's an excerpt from a speech I gave to the Orange County Jewish Bar Association. It was the first, but not the last time we had to run to a bomb shelter. Our adventure and my transformation is also the subject of my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. There is no chapter in a parenting book on what to do when a war starts and you're on a family vacation. Think touring extraordinary and sacred sites mixed with cowering in bomb shelters. I'm still trying to get over the Jewish guilt of taking my son to war for his bar mitzvah present. The impact of being human targets helped me understand the plight of Israelis living like this, and it also made me want to work on peace. How Israel is often described on the news is not what I'd seen with my own eyes. And I felt Palestinian parents also preferred their children playing safely in their backyards. The missiles exploded just near enough to blow apart my world as I knew it, forever changing me. And you'd never recognize my life today with what it was like then. I believe I found my life's purpose. Hello, I'm Penny ST, and I'm the host of Peace with Penny. In this episode, I'm excited to say we'll be celebrating our second anniversary of Peace with Penny. Approximately 75 interviews or events later, we know Israelis and Palestinians do want peace. They work hard every day to achieve this, even when incidences of violence threatens their success, but not their resolve. I started Peace with Penny as a birthday present to myself. Another way, besides writing my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel, and becoming a Jewish National Fund speaker to work on peace, and let the world know that most Israelis and Palestinians do want peace, but they don't make the news. It's 8 years later, and our latest vehicle for working on peace between Israelis and Palestinians is through Peace with Penny. It actually was my beloved teacher, Jean Houston's idea. She's a world-renowned public figure who is known for leading the human potential movement. Because of her teachings, I was able to take my dream and make it a reality. As she would say, the universe will dream a dream for you bigger than you can imagine. 2023 will be an exciting year for Peace with Penny, filled with new opportunities and, most importantly, new interviews with people whom I consider angels on earth. Folks willing to set aside their very valid grievances, some who've even lost children to the conflict, and realize retaliation can't bring their loved ones back. And they move forward, working with one another to try and make their neighborhoods safe to live in. I've been putting together a recap of some of our interviews for the celebration. Peace organizations that work on peace together from every angle: dialogue, education, interfaith, academia, the environment, women's rights, the medical field, sports, music, and even with the current far-right atmosphere of the Israeli government, politics. The list goes on and on. This is hard work. One of the essential skills is listening. Be quiet and listen. Listen with both your mind and your heart. It takes intelligence and empathy to keep your mouth shut while someone tells you their narrative, something filled with emotional heartbreak that can be in direct opposition to your own experiences or what you've been told. But you must. Peace is made with people who don't agree, often regarded as enemies. Happy anniversary to us! You saw at the beginning of today's show the why of our working so hard to bring you these incredible people. I'm having the time of my life interviewing Israelis and Palestinians who see each other as people and work together toward peace in so many different ways. Yes, Israelis and Palestinians who want to live together in peace really do exist. Some of the peace organizations that we've interviewed have worked with a fantastic organization called the Alliance for Middle East Peace, or ALMAP. In fact, Peace with Penny has also interviewed both Avi Meyerstein, their founder and president, and Huda Abu-Rakub, their director. In today's show, we are going to look at clips from the annual gala, Light the Way, a global celebration of the peace-building community. Why? We had the opportunity to learn about ALMEP, its members, their work, and even their supporters. Why do their supporters choose them to make their donations? So let's get started. ALMEP was founded in 2006, is headquartered in Washington, D.C., and has 160 Israeli and Palestinian peace organization members. They envision a Middle East in which Israelis and Palestinians have built the trust necessary to live together with dignity, peace, and security. Amen. ALMEP has been instrumental in raising awareness of these grassroots Israeli and Palestinian peace organizations, as well as helping to successfully advocate for funds to support them. The $250 million Nita M. Lowy Middle East Partnership for Peace Act, or MEPA, approved by Congress in December of 2020, is just one example that took a decade of hard work by ALMEP to achieve, but through their dedication, it finally paid off. Speaking of their hard work and dedication, let's begin with a few words from the man who started it all, their president and founder, Avi Meyerstein.
Hi everyone, I'm Avi Meyerstein, the founder and president of ALMEP, the Alliance for Middle East Peace. It's a real privilege to be here with you and have the chance to welcome you to this special broadcast of ALMEP's Winter Gala, Light the Way. We're incredibly grateful to Penny T for the work she does every day of the year to raise the voices of the peace builders so that they can get the support that they need from all around the world. And we're particularly grateful that she's hosting ALMEP's Winter Gala here for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Avi. It's a great privilege to share ALMEP's work, and as you know, it brings me great joy to work with these incredible peacemakers. Before we go any further, let's hear from their supporters, why they choose ALMEP.
I support ALMEP because
they make a real difference.
They empower Palestinian and Israeli peace builders.
They give me hope for peace in the Middle East.
As an ALMEP supporter, I see an incredible impact for my gift.
Honestly, I know no other organization where my support goes so far.
The Alliance for Middle East Peace is the largest and fastest growing network of Palestinian and Israeli peace builders.
Over 150 grassroots organizations that are flipping the script, doing the hard work of bringing Arabs and Jews, Israelis and Palestinians together.
ALMEP's purpose is to support and scale its members' work.
How do they do it?
In two interconnected ways.
First, ALMEP's expert on-the-ground team provides services to its members.
All kinds of essential resources and programs based on cooperation.
From training and advice to capacity building, crisis management, and more.
All the things that these peace builders must have to thrive and grow.
Empowering thousands of people to bring change to millions.
Helping Palestinians and Israelis become partners.
Building lasting and sustainable peace.
The second way ALMEP supports its members is by unlocking remarkable amounts of money for their work.
Over the last decade, ALMEP's advocacy has secured over $130 million, mostly from the U.S. government.
And in 2020, they went on to unlock a further $250 million.
The largest ever investment in Israeli-Palestinian peace building.
And all this with a small global team.
No donation I've ever made has had that impact or return on investment.
And there's still more to come.
AllMap is now working to create an international fund for Israeli-Palestinian peace.
By leveraging that $250 million to move other governments around the world to invest in Middle East peace building.
To create a lasting foundation upon which peace can be built.
To be clear, it's our private donations that allow AllMap to do its job and unlock these massive funds for the peace-building field.
AllMap doesn't receive a dime from its government advocacy. Those funds go directly to the peace builders.
That's why I support AllMap.
Because I've never seen a more strategic or tangible approach to peace building.
Because AllMap's vision for the future gives me hope that with the right resources, real peace and equality are possible.
Because put simply, my donation's impact is huge.
Please join us.
Support AllMap.
And make Middle East peace possible.
Speaking of the member organizations, we're going to hear from some of them throughout the broadcast. It's very important when working on peace to gather as much information as possible from many different perspectives. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is extremely complex, whether speaking regarding across the groups or within. The demographic variability is immense, whether age, sex, religious denominations, political, or educational level. One very important segment is the young, those who have been burdened with living their lives without peace. As an Israeli parent, you have to warn your children of the constant danger if you live close to the border of Gaza. Can you imagine always living with the fear of a terrorist exploding bomb, or that you'd be walking down the street with your mom and she's stabbed, or that a favorite of children, a kite, comes floating along but disguised within it's a petrol bomb? If you're a Palestinian and you want to cross the border, there's this huge wall to pass and you wait hours at the checkpoint, or you need a permit to cross to go to work, or if your child needs medical attention at an Israeli hospital. What if you grew up seeing machine guns around you as normal, defying soldiers with rocks, or grateful to them for your security? Oy. And the fact is, they'll also likely be the ones who must solve this. We will be speaking with Shefa Weinstein, co-founder and president of Regeneration Education. As we hear about war-torn Ukraine daily in the news, we are reminded of the tragedy of violent conflicts and its impact on people, and especially on children, who are innocent pawns with no say in the matter. Regeneration Education advances peace building through innovative approaches to the education, development, and resilience of young children in crisis zones, so they are able to imagine and create a better future. Many children, especially those in Israel and the West Bank, are affected by toxic stress. Violent conflict and poverty are the most common culprits. Toxic stress harms a child's life in many ways: brain development, academic achievement, and mental and physical health. Even their likelihood of committing violent crimes increases. Perhaps the most tragic side effect is the stalled development of empathy, a foundation for peace building. Regeneration Education addresses childhood toxic stress for Jewish, Christian, and Muslim children by partnering with and co-sponsoring trauma-informed schools for children in Israel and the West Bank, hosting conferences and trainings focused on educating children in crisis zones for Western and Middle Eastern kindergarten and elementary school teachers, and initiating and building interfaith networks in the U.S. that model healing in the Middle East. The impact of conflicts on children is particularly hard to hear. As a mom, it hurts me deeply that the next generation can be impacted for the rest of their lives through no fault of their own. Shefa Weinstein co-founded Regeneration Education after a trip with her family to the Holy Land in 2005 that changed her life. When Shefa visited education communities in Israel and the West Bank, she became convinced that trauma-informed education for children in crisis zones must be provided in order to build the ground necessary for sustainable peace in that volatile region. Ms. Weinstein received her Master's of Counseling Psychology From Pacifica Graduate Institute, licensed as a psychotherapist, she maintained a private psychotherapy practice in the LA area where she specialized in trauma recovery and personal empowerment until she left her practice to devote more time to regeneration education's work. Hearing on our nightly news how the children of Ukraine are now living with the ravages of war and toxic stress is rampant, we'll be speaking with Shefa and she'll be sharing her expertise. Unfortunately, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has provided many years to gain knowledge of the damage war does to the psyche of children. So let's begin. Welcome, Shefa.
Hi, thank you, Penny. Thank you for having me here.
I'm thrilled that you can join us. I'm familiar with what it's like to visit Israel and have your entire life change. Shefa, can we begin with a story in 2005 with your trip to the Holy Land that changed your life?
Yes, and just, you gave such a beautiful summary, and your story as well is very moving about finding yourself in the bomb shelter. And that actually, I want to pick up right there because my daughter was going to be an exchange student in Israel. And the Israeli teacher that was going to be the host family, when we brought her there to Israel, he was giving us a tour of his house. And he opened up this door and he introduced us to his bomb shelter. And that was my lesson, is like every house that is built in Israel has to have a bomb shelter. And it was so beyond my frame of reference.
Excuse me, I would say, and it's very disconcerting, like if you're in a hotel and there's really not a bomb shelter, but they take you to the stairwell, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel as safe.
And that is a piece of the access to the bomb shelters and equal access to bomb shelters. It's a whole number. So I remember taking photos of the door to the bomb shelter because it was just something I had never seen before. And just even trying to wrap my head around, now growing up in Southern California, we've got the earthquake territory. And
yes.
So, people wonder how we live with this. But the idea that this is something that humanity does to one another, that you have to have this just in case, it was already just really something that was beyond my frame of reference until then. And this particular Israeli teacher, he was going from Israel into the West Bank, into Jenin, and coaching teachers at a girls' high school there. And before I came to Israel, he had told me they needed books in English. And I happened to walk into Costco and I found 50 American classics for $50. So I picked up a couple boxes of those and shipped them to the teacher so he could bring them to the school. And so when we were planning our visit there, he said, "Do you want to meet the people that you helped?" And I said, "Sure." And so when we got to Israel, he had made arrangements for us to come in and meet the teachers. And I guess news of this had been not long after the entire military incursion into Jenin. And there had been fights and a lot of rubble around, and it wasn't exactly a tourist site. And so news got around that there's this American couple, me and my husband, that were coming there. And we were invited to meet this Palestinian leader. And I had prepared beforehand, my sister, who was in charge of rolling out a violence prevention program called Second Step Violence Prevention Program for the Los Angeles Unified School District, had managed to get this kit donated to me. And it is a social emotional learning program that teaches empathy, impulse control, and anger management. And so this has been, the wave in education in the United States is social emotional learning. So the question is, how do you help bring it to the Middle East and, help that wave continue? So I had this kit. And when I met this Palestinian leader, I was telling him, we have problems with violence in Los Angeles, and we have problems, and we have found that this particular learning modality for social emotional learning has been really helpful. And the Palestinian leader said something to me that changed my life. And that was the pivotal moment. And he had said to me, and you have to realize when we were coming in, literally there's rubble everywhere from this military incursion. I had seen the bomb shelter at this Israeli teacher's house. And then he says to me, this leader says to me, we don't have problem with violence in the classroom. We don't have problem with drugs in our classroom. Our problem is the occupation. What do I tell my daughter when she sees tanks coming down the street? And the meeting, in a typical Palestinian meeting, there's usually pretty chaotic and cell phones going and people coming in and out. And when this leader said this to me, everything got deadly silent. You could hear a pin drop because everyone wanted to listen to what my response was going to be. And I said to this leader, I said, children can't learn if they don't feel safe. And then as a psychotherapist, I've been trained to look for openings and to meet people where they are at. So this particular program I brought wasn't going to be it. So when I said to him, children can't learn when they don't feel safe, but there is an education that produces such safety in the classroom that when the parents take their children there, the parents themselves don't want to leave the classroom because it feels so good to be there. And this education came out of the ashes of World War I, when people were asking, how could we educate our children so there'll be no more war? And it's called Waldorf education. And that opened up a fascinating questioning period about this Waldorf education. So ironically, Waldorf education is a trauma-informed education that was developed when Europe was in shambles. And people were asking, what do we do for the next generation? And so it's been around since 1919. When this Palestinian leader asked me his question, that became such a life-changing event for me because we can have this enemy image that we're carrying around about each other. And the real question is, how can we unite with our concerns, and especially over our love for our children and our desire to see our children flourish? And so I realized that probably the most part of the work that needs to happen is to find common interests and getting people mobilized and working together in common interests. And so I found that education is not only is it generative and supportive in helping to create an environment for the next generation, but it's a way of bringing people together. And since then, we've had several conferences in Jerusalem with the David Yolean Academic College. And it has been with Israelis and Palestinians, looking at how do we educate children in crisis zones. And everyone, the teachers are left really empty-handed at this point. You might have, horrible situations, an acute situation. The bombs are dropping, the bombs are exploding, the people are coming in, they're dealing with it. Then the psychologists leave, the therapist leaves, and the teachers are left now trying to rebuild after this mess. And so this is something that is common for Israelis and Palestinians of what do you do? So this is it's a timely piece to address, and everyone's asking the question. And right now, as we're talking about with Ukraine, this is going to be a big piece. And so, what do you do for the children?
Can you talk about what regeneration education is?
Regeneration education promotes peace building through supporting the education of children in crisis zones. And one of the branches of our work is leveraging the existence of the Waldorf schools in Israel, which is a lot is based on trauma-informed principles. It's a holistic education, which trauma affects children physiologically as well. So you need to approach education as a holistic endeavor for the child to create that healing environment. And so because it's already been so strong and so much work has happened in the Waldorf communities, in the Jewish communities in Israel. It's a natural focus to go ahead and support bicultural Jewish Arab Waldorf endeavors. And so we support several kindergartens. We also support an Arab endeavor in Shfar'am called Tamrat El Zaitoun, which is the little seed of the olive tree. And this is a branch that we do. And then we also support in the West Bank House of Hope, which is a Palestinian Waldorf school. And the thing that's really delightful is, again, this is a way where there's cross-border appreciation and working together, because what everyone wants to have the best school as possible and to be able to be good teachers. So there's a joint interest in perfecting yourself as a teacher, developing as a teacher, so that you can be the best that you can for yourself and provide the best in your classroom for your children.
Awesome. I did want to share this great video.
How do you raise a child in a place that's full of trauma to feel that they have the same chance at happiness and well-being that every other child in the world does?
After a night that you don't sleep and your children was afraid and there was a bomb and siren, reality עולה על כל דמיון.
It's more than any film you can make up.
The trauma, the insecurity of a society in which warfare is always at the brink, in which there could be a bomb or a rocket or this or that, you know, that's just, it's tangible.
They always say, I cannot remember. I cannot remember. It is as everything goes in and out, and I have no access to my body.
And the children will ask you, why we are shot by gun? Why we are facing this war?
You can see the kids are a little bit more intense.
How do you educate people past their fear and anger?
The fear has a physiological process, and this is why children who are afraid have difficulty learning and remembering.
אני עובד המון באמפתיה עם ילדים עם בעיות התנהגות או בעיות קשב וריכוז, המון.
The aggression comes out of his shattered nerve system.
What is my task in a conflict area is to show my children there are more ways than what they are usually as shown by the TV or the public.
Not talking about what kind of Arab are you Muslim or Christian, what kind of Jew are you, where have you arrived from, it doesn't matter.
It's so essential to begin with the youth. It's only later these ideas are pumped into our heads that we're different.
كيرش إنه الولد هناك بمرق مرحلة اللي هي أهم مرحلة بحياته بالجيل هذا.
Because we know that when children experience those years in a healthy way, then they go into their elementary school and they're whole.
We want them to grow up and feel in a natural way to belong, just to belong to this place.
يعني التعليم إلى ما لا نهاية. أهم شيء التعليم وشيء سلاح الإنسان اللي هي شهادته.
Our hope is in educating our children in such a way that they see forgiveness and compassion and understanding and redemption and healing as every bit as important as math and science.
Today, almost every place becomes a conflict area. So the solution that the educators here develop can be taken to heal other places.
If we work with the young children now, then we stop the war 20 years from now.
In this way, it has to be done in this very moment. You can't wait for the politicians.
Let's do it. Don't wait. And we can do it right here and now.
That film always gets to me. It's
to me too, Penny. It gets me.
At Peace with Penny, I've interviewed many peace organizations, some who are all members, like Combatants for Peace and the Parents Circle Family Forum, who you'll hear from. If people who were warriors risking their own lives against the other, or from the cruelest conundrum when they have lost a child and are willing to walk across the divide and say, this has gone too far and enough is enough, just stop it. Can't we take the time to try and understand their perspective? Of course, we do, and we must. During the year, Peace with Penny interviewed Combatants for Peace's Elia Alvador and Ahmed Kilu in a two-part series. One, a former IDF soldier, and the other, a Palestinian who's been jailed multiple times, shot, and lives today with the bullet still remaining in his body, too close to his neck to operate. Yet, they are both deeply engaged in working on peace. Let's listen to these and other AllMet members.
Good evening, my name is Robbie Damlin, and I joined the Parents Circle after my son David was killed by a Palestinian sniper. We are a group of Palestinians and Israelis who believe in reconciliation and nonviolence. You might say that reconciliation doesn't make any sense because there's no peace in the picture. However, if we do not have this framework for a reconciliation process, we can at best just expect a ceasefire. We are so grateful to AllMet. AllMet have been a friend for so many years and have opened doors in the Congress. And during the last war, many of the Zooms that they had where we met other NGOs were just a solace and a recognition how necessary it is to belong to a group of like-minded people. We would like to offer you more about the Parent Circle. So I think the best idea would be for you to go into our website, and perhaps you would like to invite us to come and do a dialogue meeting for your congregation or for the people that you know, and also join our newsletter. Thank you.
Rabbi Hanan is one of the founders of Root Shorashim Judah, a peace organization of Israeli settlers and Palestinians. It is a grassroots initiative for understanding, nonviolence, and transformation. Rabbi Hanan is very special to me, and I'm grateful to have met him. Every time I speak with him, he always has something more to teach me. He's an Israeli settler who lives in the West Bank, and he works with Palestinians on peace. He understands that to be a peacemaker, you have to speak to the people who disagree with you, and this can be very difficult and at times dangerous. He and Ali Abu Awad were the first peacemakers that I met after our fateful trip in July 2014, and I wrote about them in my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. Rabbi Hanan lives in Alon Shvut, Israel. Currently, he serves as the Director of International Relations at Roots. He also is the founder of the American Friends of Roots, a multi-faith organization dedicated to supporting the work of Roots. Prior to Roots, Rav Hanan taught Jewish studies at the Pardes Institute, Beit Midrash Alo, Nishmat, and Yeshivat Bat Ayin. He also was founder and executive director and community rabbinic scholar for the Jewish Studies Initiative of North Texas for more than a decade, and worked for 2 years in the Judaic Fellows Program in Boca Raton, Florida. Let's talk about something positive. Let's talk about Roots and your work with Roots and your work to try to bring understanding to both sides. You have many different programs there. Can you talk about your various groups?
So Roots is the local Israeli-Palestinian initiative for understanding nonviolence and transformation. We bring the two sides together, Israelis and Palestinians locally. People live right near each other, but completely separate. Different towns and villages, different languages, different transportation systems, different medical systems, education, everything is separate, and there's no place to meet. Other than Rami Levy, which I said is new, there's no place Israelis and Palestinians could meet. And even in Rami Levy, it's a Jewish place. Palestinians who go there are only the upper class that have gone beyond the fear of most Palestinians. Most Palestinians wouldn't go into Rami Levy. They just wouldn't go there. So there's no place to meet. Roots created a place to meet. We created the only Israeli-Palestinian community center in the whole West Bank, in all of Judea and Samaria. It's called the Dignity Center. And there the two sides can meet. We have a patio, we have a field, we have bathrooms, classroom, kitchen. And it's a Garden of Eden. It's an oasis. It's a place of really reconciliation and equality and dignity where both sides can meet. So in addition to just casual meetings, we have many, many, many different programs. I'll talk about our youth group. We have, before the pandemic, it hasn't yet started up again, we have a little kids group, kids ages of 5 to 10, meeting every other week. My grandchildren were part of that. We have a middle school program, photography workshops for kids from the ages of 11 to 14, 15. And then we have our high school kids, ages 15 to 18, who meet every other week during the course of the whole school year and really, really get to know each other and get to listen to the other side's narrative and be scandalized and be upset and be challenged and unsettled. And that's the way you grow. In addition to that, we also have a program for our alumni. We have about 120 alumni of the youth program, people between the ages of 18 and 24 at this point, 18 and 25. They meet infrequently, but they meet. And that's really important to keep the flame going, the flame of what they learned and experienced during the high school program. In addition to that, we have 2 different faith dialogue groups, one Jews and Christians, another Jews and Muslims. We have religious celebrations together, like now we're celebrating Ramadan, the Muslim holy month. Every week during Ramadan, Roots holds an iftar, which is a break-fast meal. The Muslims are fasting every day and eating when the sun goes down. So once a week, we have a break-fast meal when the sun goes down. We've had between 60 and 80 people at the 3 events we've had so far. The 4th and last one is tomorrow night. And it's really, it's just a wonderful thing. It's a liberating thing to be able to go beyond your bubble and talk to the other side as a human being, as if it's natural. To talk to for a Jew and a Palestinian, talk as if it's natural. It's not natural around here, but we make it natural. To hear their pain and their suffering, hear their perspective, hear their narrative, hear about their lives, hear about their aspirations on both sides. We pray together, we eat together, we study together, we talk together, and we have a good time together. And I ultimately believe that human contact is the key to a better future, of destroying those exclusive narratives, the prejudices and the fears, creating empathy and trust. In addition to that, we have photography workshops every summer for women. We have lectures on religious topics. We have language study, learning the other side's language. We have a music therapy group that's just beginning again after Ramadan, after a year and a quarter on break. And that's in our center in Gush Etzion. Gush Etzion is the area between Bethlehem and Hebron, south of Jerusalem, near my home. But we also have a root center in the Jordan Valley, where we have some of these same programs on a smaller level. We also have a newer center between Ramallah and Nablus in the north, what we just called Samaria. There it's small, but it's also growing. And we have a tiny, tiny, tiny seed that's growing in the Hebron Hills, south of the city of Hebron. Now, that's everything I said is on the level of people-to-people contact, but we do more than people-to-people contact. I forgot to say the summer camp, the sleepaway camp, the day camp, but beyond the people-to-people stuff, we also engage in activism, which means trying to directly act in this imbalance of power in which we live. If a mosque is torched by Jewish radicals, we come and fix it up the next day. If a synagogue is torched, we come and say, this is not the Palestinian people. If an olive grove of Palestinians is destroyed, there the next day. And when Palestinian houses are destroyed by the military, we also come and we say, we're sorry this had to happen. And we have more than one member, Palestinian members, who've had their houses destroyed.
Mm.
And of course, when there are attacks, one side against the other, we try to get involved somehow to lower the flames of hatred. We had a case of 3 years ago, in which a Palestinian boy was shot by the Israeli army and killed. And it was clear that it was a mistake. The army held the boy's body for many, many, many weeks as part of the Israeli government policy. And we lobbied the government to return the body. And we were successful there. There are Palestinian villages without water. There are Palestinian villages who have the entrance closed by the army. We tried to lobby to relieve some of the suffering.
Wow. You also speak, and you have a program with the pre-army academies.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that?
Yeah, we speak to groups that come to our center. There are groups that come from around the world, primarily from America, and primarily Jewish, but not only. And there are groups in Israel. So in Israel, I'd say 80% of the groups that come are from Israeli gap year programs. Kids finish high school, they have to go to the army. But between high school and the army, something like 4,000 Israeli kids every year go into one of these gap year programs. And a lot of the gap year programs bring their students to us for a 3-hour, 2-hour seminar, which they simply hear an Israeli talking. It might be me, it might be my partner Shaul, and they hear a Palestinian talking. It might be my partner Noor, my partner Khalid. And for 99% of them, this is the first time they ever met a Palestinian. For 80% of them, it's the first time they ever met a settler. And to meet the two together, talking about empathy and understanding and acceptance and recognition is mind-boggling. And I think that many, many of them really undergo a mini transformation.
That's very cool. You recently had a run that you did?
We recently had our second Roots Run for Reconciliation. About 35 people ran a 9.5 kilometer course to raise money for Roots. At the end of it, we had a very nice ceremony in which both Israelis and Palestinians participated, in which we talked about Roots, had refreshments, listened to a little bit of music. And our third Run for Reconciliation is Sunday, October 16th. We invite people from around the world to do two things. One is to donate money for the run. We raised $50,000 in the past run. But secondly, not just to donate, but to run themselves around the world the same day that we're running, and to get people to sponsor them, again, to raise money for Roots.
Give us a couple things that you learned that you didn't know before, but today you really value having learned it.
That's so hard for me to answer because I've learned so much and it's all become so natural. I've learned that Palestinians are human beings. I've learned about their story. I've learned about their families. I've learned about their way of life. I've learned not to be afraid of them. That's so important. Let me tell you a story about that.
Okay.
So going back 6 years ago, I think only less than a year after I'd been involved in Roots, I was at our center, the Roots Center, and I needed a ride home. And a Palestinian and his friend said, I'll give you a ride home. So these two Palestinians sat in front and I sat in the back and we said, let's drive. And within a few seconds, like 10 seconds of driving, I started to laugh. And they asked me, why are you laughing? And this is what I told them. I said, look, I'm now in a Palestinian car with Palestinian license plates, with a Palestinian driver and a Palestinian sitting next to the driver. In my wildest dreams, I would never, ever imagine being in this situation, except if I'm being kidnapped. And it's so crazy that I'm sitting in the car and I'm not being kidnapped. And I'm not afraid. How could that be? I learned to sit in a Palestinian car and not be afraid.
Wow. If you were speaking to the people of the world, what would the message be that you'd want them to know about your work on peace with roots with the Palestinians and in your Israeli community?
I'd say like this. If you are pro-Israeli, that's good. Stay like that. If you're pro-Palestinian, that's good. Stay like that. But don't be only pro-Israeli or only pro-Palestinian. We in Roots want you to be strongly pro-Israel and strongly pro-Palestine at the same time. Because, and this goes back to the hubris of exclusivity, if you're only supporting one side, then you're willy-nilly supporting conflict. What we need is people around the world who love Palestinians and love Israelis and see their legitimacy on both sides and want both sides to live together. So support Israel strongly, support Palestine strongly. That's the way to support a better future.
So let's begin with the first group of organizations who work with specific cities, villages, or communities. Today, Citizen Diplomacy Initiatives concentrates on encouraging American, Israeli, and Palestinian people to acquire a consciousness and understanding of one another as individuals, as members of their communities, as citizens of their countries, and as part of the family of nations through the formation of three-way sister city relationships. In 1997, Citizen Diplomacy Initiatives used the establishment of a water treatment plant in Qalqilia in the Palestinian territories to begin a three-way sister city agreement between the Israeli city of Kfar Saba, Qalqilia, and Gainesville, Florida. The need for the facility drove the incentive to work together peacefully. Amen. We'll be able to hear many stories of creative programs that have developed since, including music with the Los Angeles-based hip-hop group Luminaries, sharing children's art projects aligned between the cities, and a documentary called When People Lead. We'll be discussing how establishing these sister city relationships have helped bridge the gap toward mutual cooperation, yielding benefits far beyond city borders.
Political leaders will never take risks if the people do not push them to take some risks.
To have the opportunity to interact with people from the Middle East, from Israel and Palestine on a human level is exactly what I think the world needs.
Well, let's talk, let's have a conversation now, huh?
When we start with people-to-people relations, it will help.
You know, human relations and relationships are so important.
In 1998, Gainesville, Florida started a three-way sister city program with the cities of Qalqilia and Kfar Saba and Gainesville.
This program, we feel, is different.
You know, our goal is to pair every Israeli and Palestinian city with a U.S. city in a three-way relationship.
This is a great initiative.
I think the idea is great, really.
A good platform for good relationship.
Absolutely. We want this kind of, of relation to go ahead.
We need bridges of love and understanding.
I think that we can be a bridge.
We would like to have cooperation.
It will provide us with an ample opportunity to really begin to move in the direction of sustainable crime.
Let's do the 50-50-50.
We'll work on that, inshallah.
What we're here to do is make personal relationships first.
And I'm really excited about having the luminaries here.
Be the change that you want to see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace. Aspire to peace. Someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King. Aspire to be.
In 1982, the city of Gainesville initiated the first U.S.-Soviet sister city program. At that time, it was the height of the Cold War. There was no conversations or relationships between ordinary American and Soviet people. And it was a very dangerous time, 50,000 nuclear weapons, threats of using them, and people were scared. And so we started this sister city program. We took delegations there. Other cities began contacting us. After a few years, we were able to connect 200 U.S. and Soviet cities. And then President Reagan went on television and said, this is what we need, more sister city programs.
Enduring peace requires openness, honest communications, and opportunities for our peoples to get to know one another directly. We're proposing the broadest people-to-people exchanges in the history of American-Soviet relations. People-to-people contacts can build genuine constituencies for peace in both countries. After all, people don't start wars. Governments do.
So we're at a critical point here in our project.
If they won't even listen, how can there be any hope?
The wall that we came across there was much higher and much thicker than any physical wall that I've seen here.
It's so close, but mentally it's very far for us. For me.
Keep asking questions, searching for answers, trying to find ways we can just heal.
Called Flowers of Forgiveness.
We
are under occupation.
A lot of people died.
We can't change this. Warring. People are starving. How many children have to be killed? Maybe the world is just a reflection of how I feel.
How do we stop the suffering of regular people?
The world is just a reflection of how I feel.
I don't want to get emotional.
Maybe the world is just a reflection of how I feel.
All the people want
the world is just a reflection of how I feel.
I believe we can do it together.
I said people to people. Change is going to occur here, and it's going to start with the young people.
They are capable of creating peace and change in the world.
You know, this trip has opened up my eyes.
This time I have tears of joy.
Waiting is not an option anymore.
We need to get these people together.
And not accept the status quo.
We're going to give it everything we've got.
When the leaders get stuck and they're no longer able to effectively lead, that's when the people lead.
In today's episode, we will be speaking with Roy Silverberg, the director of the School for Peace, located in the mixed village in Israel, Wahat al-Salam Nev Shalom, which is a unique and inspiring cooperative village jointly founded by Israeli Jews and Arabs. The School for Peace is an uncommon educational institution founded in 1979, offering Jewish-Arab encounter programs in the spirit of their mixed Jewish and Arab community. It is the first educational institution in Israel promoting broad-scale change towards peace and more humane, egalitarian, and just relations between Palestinians and Jews. The School for Peace works with Jewish and Palestinian professional groups, women, and youth, creating a genuine egalitarian dialogue between the two people. Through workshops, training, programs, and special projects, the SFP develops participants' awareness of the conflict and their role in it, enabling them to take responsibility to change the present relations between Jews and Palestinians. Although they have existed for over 40 years, unfortunately, in September of 2020, they had 2 arson attacks, and ironically, the School for Peace was burned down. Still, until this day, they don't know who committed the crime. They have continued teaching, holding classes, using other buildings there and within the town, and have fundraised to rebuild the school. They demonstrated their dedication and perseverance for peace. And let me share this picture, this very sad picture here. Why don't you talk about that whole issue and what happened? And
September 1st, 2020, an arson attack was committed, and the School for Peace was burned down. The classrooms were burnt down, and we still don't know who did it. And but there is evidence that it was an arson attack. The police closed the I don't know how you call it, closed the investigation after 6 months.
Why, if they don't know who caused it, why would they do that?
I think that this is what you do when you don't know who did something. No, like if you know who did it, and after the investigation, you can continue. And here they didn't have the investigation failed. And I tell you something even worse, maybe. After 2 days after that attack, like the School for Peace changed, we changed our auspices to another building in the village, to the Peace Library, which was vacant for us, or which was vacant, and we could use it. And then 2 days later, that building was also, there was an attempted arson here, which was only because it's a new building with sprinklers and fire alarm and all that. It was only damage to the furniture and to some of the books, but not to the building. So we were really feeling haunted. I went around with a headache for several weeks. This is when I became director.
Oh, welcome to management. Oh my goodness. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing at the irony that you have big shoulder pads, I hope.
And I was not aware that what would happen is that we went into a very big campaign using, thanks to the Communications and Development Office of the village. We managed to raise more than $1 million for the rebuilding of the School for Peace. And now we are having the task of really building it. And this is something I didn't plan on when I took the job.
So when do you think the school will be rebuilt?
I hope that in a year from now, or maybe a bit more. I don't know if you're aware, but there is inflation going on. And it's not sure that the money we collected would be enough. And it's like we're trying to figure this out as well.
But even so, all along you've been still running the school just from different buildings, and it's still going on. I want people to know that. Today we're going to speak with Kara Albaz, the chairman of the Arab Jewish Center for Empowerment, Equality, and Cooperation, Negev Institute for Strategies of Peace and Economic Development, or AJIC-NISPED, an Arab Jewish peace organization. AJIC-NISPED is a large organization with a $4 million annual budget and has a wide range of projects, and has been working diligently on peace between Jews, Arabs, and Bedouins for over 15 years. They've also worked to help many developing countries worldwide train young leaders in Africa, Haiti, the Palestinian Authority, Jordan, and more. They have had 250 volunteer year programs, have 1,500 volunteers aged 13 to 25, and they have 5,000 members in their youth organization. We'll concentrate on their work in Israel between Arab-Jewish partnerships, especially with the Bedouin community. Did you know that Bedouins are also citizens of Israel? However, they're also some of the poorest people in the country due to many factors that we'll discuss, not least of which having to change from a nomadic culture to a westernized civilian structure. Change of any type is always difficult, but such an extreme cultural change for an entire group of people take lots of time and effort. Jewish Israelis and Bedouins working together within Israel is one way to work on peace. I'd like to play a brief clip about AJIC-NISPED. It has some history of the organization, shows a taste of some of their projects. It's not all in English, so for some of it you'll have to read the subtitles, but you'll get an idea of the fantastic work that is going on between the Jews and the Arabs and Bedouins in the region. Some awards they've won for their work, and then we'll talk about their programs more in detail. It has some history of the organization, shows a taste of some of their projects. It's not all in English, so for some of it you'll have to read the subtitles, but you'll get an idea of the fantastic work that is going on between the Jews and the Arabs and Bedouins in the region. Some awards they've won for their work, and then we'll talk about their programs more in detail. But
in AJIC, we work to close the gap between the communities, create equality, and build partnership. We work with the Arab Bedouin communities in Israel. We work with population all around the country and with communities around the world.
החזון של אג'יק הוא בעצם לייצר עתיד חדש שבו כל אדם, צעיר ומבוגר, ימצא את ההזדמנות השווה לייצר את השינוי, לחיות בכבוד, לקבל את זהותו ולקבל את הזהות של האחר.
The Negev Institute for Strategies of Peace and Development was founded in 1998. In 2002, Amal founded AJIC, the Arab Jewish Center for Equality, Empowerment and Cooperation.
In 2003, we started the Bedouin Volunteer Center for teaching informal education.
In 2004, we were fortunate to get a very small grant that gave us the opportunity to start an early childhood program.
In 2005, we started the Economic Development Department.
In 2005, the formal name of the organization also changed so that we are now known as AJIC Nisped. In 2010, we expanded our program even further, the community health program.
In 2015, the Ministry of Education recognized Shabibat AJIC as the first and only youth organization in the Arab society in Israel.
אז זכינו למספר פרסים. זכינו גם לפרס אוניברסיטת בן גוריון, וזכינו גם לפרסים מקומיים, אבל השיא היה בעצם כשב-2016 זכינו בפרס נשיא המדינה. בשנת 2017, תוכנית ברידג'טק, שהיא בעצם תוכנית הכשרת צעירים לעולם ההייטק, הוכרה על ידי משרד החינוך כמכינה מוכרת, ובעצם מאז אנחנו כבר מפעילים את התוכנית לשנה השלישית ברציפות. אנחנו בעצם עוסקים במספר רחב מאוד של תחומים. בתחום החינוך אנחנו עוסקים במגוון מאוד רחב של פעילויות, שאם אני אזכיר כמה מתוכם, אז יש לנו את שנת קהילה של התנדבות, יש לנו את ארגון הנוער שביבת אג'יק, יש לנו את הורים כשותפים, ויש לנו את ברידג'טק. בתחום הבריאות וחוסן קהילתי אנחנו מדברים על מגוון רחב מאוד, שוב, של פעילויות, שכולל שירותי אמבולנס בכפרים לא בלתי מוכרים, צוות חוסן קהילתי, הכשרת חובשים, קבוצות תמיכה למלחמות בסרטן השד. תחומי תעסוקה ועסקים חברתיים אנחנו עוסקים גם במגוון מאוד רחב של תחומים. נשים רוקמות חלום למשל, היא הכשרת נשים למציאת מקורות פרנסה. אחד הפרויקטים הייחודיים שלנו בעצם באג'יק מכון הנגב היא הפרויקט שנקרא שנת קהילה, כאשר אנחנו מפגישים מתנדבים צעירים מהחברה היהודית עם מתנדבים צעירים מהחברה הערבית, והם עובדים בזוגות. הפרויקט הזה בעצם נותן הזדמנות לצעירים להיחשף לתרבות האחר לאורך בעצם שנה שלמה. והכוונה שלנו בעתיד היא להתחיל דווקא מגיל הגן, להפגיש את הקבוצות של ילדים מגיל הגן ועד סיום בית הספר התיכון, כאשר לילדים תהיה הזדמנות לפגוש את האחר לאורך כל תקופת הלימודים שלהם.
We are a joint team of 200 employees and 1,500 volunteers, working together to reach out to more than 30,000 people every year. As Jewish Israelis, we are not working for the Bedouin community, we are working with the Bedouin communities in equality and partnership.
התקציב השנתי של אג'יק היום הוא עומד על כ$4 מיליון, שבעצם באו לחסות גם את הפעילות אבל גם את העבודה והשכר העבודה של כ-200 עובדים בתוך הארגון בשכר וכ-1,500 מתנדבים במהלך השנה. החלוקת התקציב היא בעצם באה למזער את הסיכון, והחלטנו ש50% מהתקציב יגיע מפילנתרופיה, 25% יגיע ממשרדי ממשלה ו-25% יגיע ממקורות תקציביים שלנו, כמו העסקים החברתיים שהזכרנו מקודם. עיקר התקציב באג'יק הוא בעצם הולך להפעלות, לפרויקטים ותקציבי פעולה.
אני חושבת שהאימפקט הכי גדול זה שהם יוצאים עם מודעות חברתית וסביבתית הרבה יותר רגישה. הם מודעים לאיפה הם נמצאים. וגם אנחנו רואים בסוף השנה, כשהם מתחילים להיפגש, איך הם מתנהגים א' ואיך הם מסיימים ב'. כלומר, כל הדבר הזה מתחיל ככה לרקום עור וגידים.
אני חושב ארגון מהחברה האזרחית כמו אג'יק יכול לשנות בצורה דרמטית גם את התדמית ואת היכולת של החברה הבדואית.
As Jews, we believe in our responsibility for tikkun olam, repairing the world. And tikkun olam begins with your closest neighbors. In Ajik, we dream, we innovate, and we implement, together, Jews and Arabs, for a better future for Israel as a whole.
We're going to be speaking with Russell F. Robinson, the CEO of Jewish National Fund today. Russell has succeeded in making the organization one of the top-rated charities in the United States and the leading organization for the land and people of Israel. He's been ranked on the Jerusalem Post list of the world's 50 most influential Jews and oversees the organization's $1 billion roadmap for the next decade. Russell's been featured in best-selling management books and regularly speaks on TV, radio, and in the print media. He took over the reins in 1997 as its youngest CEO and has led this powerful organization for 2.5 decades, continuing JNF's legacy of helping build Israel and become the strong nation it is, despite the incessant threats from many. Am Yisrael High. It's not talked about as much as I think it should be, but the Jewish National Fund supports various projects that work on peace by having Israelis and various Arab neighbors, such as the Bedouins, Jordanians, and Palestinians, cooperate and work together, particularly at the Arava Institute. So since 1996, JNF has supported the Institute, which advances cross-border environmental cooperation in the face of political conflict. Russell, where's the Arava located and why is that important?
So the Arava Institute is located, if you look at a map between the Dead Sea and Eilat, I think is the best way I could describe it, is an area in which for many years was the area which was the border with Jordan at that time for many years. There was no peace with Jordan. You know, people only now know about peace with Jordan. This was a hostile border. You know how they protected the border of Israel? Not, again, with F-16s, not with Merkava tanks. They protected the border by doing what? Oh, planting fig trees and dates and pomelas and fruits and vegetables and taking a piece of land in which you would never think about stopping, much less stopping and growing. And the Jewish miracle happened together with the Jewish National Fund in developing land that has created 55% of the peppers that are exported from Israel come from the Arava. 50% of the melons that are exported from Israel come from the Arava. By the way, in the Arava Valley there, Penny, it's 2 inches of rain a year that comes all in 2 days. So it's the Jewish National Fund that created the water resource. The Arava Institute is part of that whole pie there, creating an institute that deals with environment, water, and water technology, and how are you going to live on that land, which is replicable in the Arab countries and in Africa. And so the Arava Institute has brought together Jordanians and Palestinians, Israelis, Europeans, and Americans, because they're coming to study one of the finest environmental institutes in all the world, in the place where you could study the harsh environment.
How did the cooperation with Israel's Arab neighbors at the Arava Institute begin? What brought that about? Do you know?
I think it became the reality. The people of the Arava Institute who created it, born out of the realities that I told you, that if you're gonna, you cannot control a raindrop, you cannot control a heat wave, you cannot control a fruit fly. It doesn't know from one border to another border. And so how do you build cooperation? You build cooperation for the future. And the future is going to be on what you're going to grow and what you're going to eat and how are you going to protect the land. And all the neighbors, it's something that's in it for everybody. So people are coming and studying. And hopefully, who knows, the environmental minister in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, there'll be one from Jordan and one from Israel and one from Egypt and one from Europe in 3 places, and the United States will have the Secretary of Environment, and they were all trained and educated at the Arava Institute in Israel.
Sounds great. I know that the students are required to attend a peace building and environmental leadership seminar Can you talk about that?
So part of their curriculum involves a lot of different things that they, and remember, they were together. They were together during the midst of all of this conflict. So they have to have great conversations with each other and know about each other. And you know, and so that's where I think it's such an unbelievable place that you got to come see the people and talk to them, come and meet the students.
Yeah, well, not only the students, but the staff. I understand Dr. Tariq Abu Hamed was just appointed executive director of the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies, and this is the first appointment of a Palestinian to head an academic institute in Israel. And as we speak, I'm making arrangements to have him and students do a Peace with Penny interview. So what can you tell us about Dr. Abu Hamed? I'll pull up his picture.
I think he's a listen, you're going to be having him on one of your shows. He's a fascinating individual. Has been involved for years. He shows about how, you know, literally coexistence works. He's been in Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment in Israel as well. So you can see somebody who's moved up in the government ranks as well and has made policy. So now he teaches it and makes policy.
And you see him in front of a solar panel. Can you talk about some of the work that they've done with solar energy at the...
So in that whole area, some of the largest solar farms that are all throughout Israel, the whole Arava Valley during daylight hours is 100% off-grid. Matter of fact, we just built an indoor Olympic-sized swimming pool with competitive pool with seating. In an area that gets to 125 degrees during the day, and it's going to be 100% off-grid, including its air conditioning, heating, and even the water goes through an 8-day process of wetland cleaning underneath, so no chemicals. And so down in the Arava, you can see solar farms that have literally provided complete power for the entire area.
Oh, wow. Really cool. The Institute has 5 research centers, and they focus on water management, sustainable development, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, and native conservation. And it's filled with the future leaders who come from Israel, Palestinian territories, Jordan, and around the world to cooperatively solve the environmental challenges of our time. Let's talk about water. There are so many positive accomplishments that have been created, but I remember you telling me the story of Ronald Lauder, the past president of JNF, and how he was really concerned that by 2020, Israel would be out of water. How did you help to avoid that?
When we started working on water, which is 24 years ago, if you Google it, you'll see that all the articles were written by the year 2000 or by the year 2020 for sure. Israel would be completely out of water. Out of water. Not short, out of water. The great water wars would be fought in the Middle East, as they have throughout the world. That water is the war. Look at the West was fought over water in the United States. Water wars are more than land wars. And again, Israel wasn't going to run out of water. The Middle East was going to run out of water. And we took it on. We challenged the American Jewish community to raise money for sewage water. Now, that's not what they were used to. They were used to the ingathering of exiles. They were used to raising money for poverty, for Israel, the brink of annihilation. And we raised $300 million, built 250 reservoirs, provide today 13.1% of the water availability in Israel, which is equivalent to 3.1 million Israelis having water every year. And Israel now reuses 89% of its water. The country next to it is Spain at 27%, the United States at 5%. 73 years young, not a bad run there.
Wow. Wow. It's just so impressive, as always. I mean, Israel always impresses me. And there's also the Arava International Center for Agricultural Training known as ACAT, and also the Project Wadia Tier, which has programs with Israelis and Bedouins, Jordanians, Palestinians, and many developing countries. ACAT students have attended from Cambodia, East Timor, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Jordan, Kenya, Laos, Myanmar, Nepal, Nigeria, Philippines, Rwanda, South Sudan, Thailand, Uganda, and Vietnam. ACAT imparts professional agricultural knowledge and skills to students from developing countries while establishing itself as the national and international leading authority in sophisticated arid lands agricultural studies and training. This provides invaluable knowledge to their students who attend, but also provides additional high-quality employment for local residents. Israel is positioned perfectly to help where water and food are needed in the world. So, can you talk about ACAT's ability to teach the world and the most up-to-date technological advances for growing food? I'll give you a picture there.
So ACAT is one of those unbelievable institutions that talks about Israel making the world a better place. Over 1,500 students a year come from, as you said, countries in Southeast Asia and Africa, many countries that don't even have diplomatic relations with Israel. They come, they get 23 college credit hours. They work, earn money, and they get practical experience working on the farms as well. And so they leave. By the way, they tour Israel. You want to see something incredible, to go and meet somebody from Cambodia who's been to Yad Vashem and talk to them. You know, and they have the killing fields in Cambodia. Right. So I talk to them, and they talk about, oh my God, I can't believe what happened to the Jewish people. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe what happened to the Cambodians. And they're crying and we're crying. Or you go to somebody from Thailand who goes to Mount Meron when it's raining, you know, and I mean, it's snowing, and they see snow, and they write back home and they say, oh, great skiing in Israel. I said, well, don't say that, because it's only for like 4 days. But they get to travel throughout Israel. They see Israel. They earn college credits, and they go back and listen, Penny. This is what ACAT does. This is the Jewish National Fund story. This is the Israel story and the Jewish story. They go back. An African farmer puts food on the plate of their family, their village, and their people because of a lesson taught in Israel, because of a water technology from Israel, because of a seed that comes from Israel. Israel makes the world a better place.
Well, that's our 2nd year anniversary celebration, and we hope you enjoyed it. There have been so many peace organizations that we've spoken with, and we're very sorry that we could only choose short clips and a small number to revisit. All of them work very hard on peace and deserve to be known. If you missed any of the original interviews, go to our Peace with Penny YouTube channel or on www.penny.com under podcasts. I want to personally thank the organizations for their hard work that they do every day on peace, and especially to you, our audience, who care about peace. We're excited as we begin our 3rd year. We'll be speaking about new opportunities for Peace with Penny and enjoying so many new interviews. We hope you'll continue joining us, and please, if you can, share our interviews with your friends and family, like them on Facebook and Quora, and make comments. Help get the word out on these fantastic organizations making the world a better place. As I've said, I started Peace with Penny as a present for myself for my birthday. I can't think of a present that I'd want more, the profound opportunity to work on peace. Thanks again, and may you live in peace, shalom, and salam.